One of the most beautiful things about love is that when you love someone, you can never end saying how much you love him or her. You just say how beautiful you are, my beloved, how incredible and wonderful you are, my beloved. And so in Shir HaShirim too, in the first chapter and also afterwards, you see one beloved speaking to the other and saying, Hinach yafa rayati, hinach yafa, enaych yonim, hincha yafe dodi. Two people saying to each other over and over again, never feeling it's enough, how much they love each other, what they see in each other, what can never be really spoken to the end, which is wondrous, almost from the beginning, every time. How beautiful it is to be able to look at someone in life in such a way, not being able to really express fully what we see in him, what we see in her, how much we see in them. And yet, it's very interesting in that very same verse, in the Song of Songs, Shir HaShirim, from chapter A and afterwards in other chapters, Hinach yafa rayati, hinach yafa, how beautiful you are, my beloved, how beautiful you are. Enaych yonim, your eyes are like doves. And the woman speaking to the man, saying to him, Hincha yafe dodi, how beautiful you are. It's very interesting that Rabbi Simon ben Pazi, Rabbi Simon ben Pazi, says it's actually really strange. She says to him only once how beautiful he is. And he says to her twice how beautiful she is. Why is that? Why should she say twice how beautiful you are, my beloved? Very interestingly, the Psikta tries to give an explanation and says that God said so twice to Am Yisrael, to the people of Israel. The first time he said how beautiful you are was at Sinai, when he gave them and they received the Torah. But then the second time he said it was when God understood that they received the Torah, and yet there was a sin of a golden calf. And despite of that, he gives them for the second time the Torah and says, your teachers will teach you that. Hinach yafa, how beautiful you are. Or the Psikta, the Midrash, teaches the first time how beautiful and fair you are, my beloved. God said so when he gave the mitzvot, when God gave the mitzvot to Am Yisrael. And the second time was when it didn't really work, but God saw so many people of our nation just creating and doing good deeds, whatever they could, each one of them. And God looked and said, Hinach yafa, how beautiful you are, my beloved. Maybe, teaches us the Midrash, sometimes it's not the first time when something happens the perfect way you wanted it exactly to be, but the second time, which makes it more close, more human, something that really actually happens when people really create, build, in order to make what they had envisioned, how beautiful you are. A world which God has envisioned for us, a reality which we envisioned for the world. It's very interesting that Yom Ha'atzmaut, the day of independence of Israel, is always between the first Passover in Nisan and the second Passover, which is going to be just now, this Motzei Shabbat, Yudaled Be'iyar. In Parashat Ba'alotcha, in the portion of Ba'alotcha, we learned that there were people who couldn't celebrate the first Passover. And they came to Moshe, to Moses, and they said, but what about us? We couldn't celebrate. Back then we were in a kind of a purification world. But we don't want to give up on Passover. We need it too. And Moshe doesn't know what to do, and eventually he learns that every person, every human being should receive his chance, another chance, a Passover, in which he could come out, or she could come out, or all of us could come out of Mitzrayim, of Egypt, and go to the land, a promised land. How interesting it is that the day of independence of Israel is always between those two Passovers, the one which all of us celebrate together, and the one which reminds us that there always has to be a second chance to come out of Egypt and go to the promised land. And it seems to me like we come from a tradition of second and third chances. Humanity eventually did not come, or according to one of the traditions, did not come from Cain and Abel. Of course, not from Abel, but not also from Cain, but from Shet, another son who came later. The Torah, We received it for the first time, and yet we had to receive it for the second. Eretz Yisrael, we received it for the first time, the second, and maybe now for the third. The counting of the Omer, Sfirat HaOmer, according to the Zohar, is in a way another chance to come out of Egypt. Never to give up, that there's an entrance, that there's a gateway, to really find the way to the promised land. It seems to me not for naught that we come from a tradition that speaks of the fact that there is always the first Hinach Yafa, how beautiful you are, but always comes a second for those who really love, for those who really want to go in a very long journey and insist and even rebel and say, Hinach Yafa, how beautiful you are. I see in you so much of what was promised, and with you I walk to the promised land. And I think that the promised land to which we walk, Medinat Israel, the state of Israel, has achieved so many beautiful gifts of people who care, but also has a lot to keep on achieving, of a nation who cares, who sees. We have a long way to go there. On this year, celebrating the 71st year of the state of Israel, I look at the state of Israel and I say, Hinach Yafa Rayati, how beautiful you are. And more than that, Hinach Yafa Enaich Yonim, but you can be even more beautiful. And I trust that, and I see. The first time always makes you think that the next year you can make it even better. And we have many, many, many things to still fix and do. And yet we can stand and say, Hinach Yafa, how beautiful you are, and give another and another gateway and chance, trust and belief. In many ways, I think this is what the Tzion community, our Tzion, does in Yerushalayim. Many of us in Yerushalayim and in Tzion give a second chance to ourselves, a second chance to faith, a second chance for people coming from all different places, denominations, traditions, seeing that we need to be together and learn from each other, that we give each other a second chance to understand what our Judaism is, what being an Israeli in this time is, a second chance to friendship, to community, to tradition, to faith, to hope, so many things. And on this year, I really want to send all of us in Tzion and all our friends all around, wherever you are, and to say how great it is for human beings to say, not only for the first time, but after the first time, when it's not exactly, but it's on the way, for the second time, and even the third, to say, Hinach Yafa, how beautiful you are. And I pray and wish for all of us to give a second chance, to see that the first aimed high, and that is what we should do. Aim as high, as complete, as whole, and holy as we can. And then give a second chance and a third to get closer and closer until we make this place the promised land. May all of us connected to Tzion, the dream of Tzion, do that, give that to each other, to many of the beautiful things that we believe in, to what our nation has believed in for many, many generations. And now that we are here, let us say, Hinach Yafa Rayati, Hinach Yafa Enaich Yonim, how beautiful you are. And I will say that again and again and walk with you until together, with very hard work and faith, together, we will arrive to the promised land.